Let's go ahead and record this big boy. All right. So what I kind of want to talk about today's meeting was about basically being, what do you think? What do you say? Basically not kind of hiding, being direct, being able to be a good communicator, right? So I think a lot of basically times how that reflects is transparency, right? How transparent are we as sales professionals? How transparent are we as basically as far as our deception goes with ourselves? So transparency and deception were the two different things that we talked about today. Why in the hell does that thing keep going off? All right. So basically, transparency and deception are the two things that basically we spoke about today. It was, how transparent are you with, coworkers? How transparent are you with basically your customers? How transparent are you with, even your family? And then what level of deception, do you give yourself or do you have? Because sometimes we can look through a certain set of lenses that really affect how we communicate and affect our willingness or ability to communicate, because we start looking throughout our own box, and our own box that we set in. Sometimes we look at how everything's affecting us and not how we're affecting everything outside of our little box. Box meaning your head, right? So we got our 6 inches between our ears. And sometimes, again, we're so focused on our world and how we see our world around us that we stop looking at sometimes what we put out might be bringing on what we're getting back. And I think that was important today's message. I thought about it. I'm like, man, you know what? Gone over it before, but when you really sit down and kind of self-actualize and figure out, how transparent am I as a leader or as a friend or a communicator or, even a sales rep, going into the house, how well am I transparent? Am I making sure? And transparency can be related to a couple different things. It could be, how open you are with sharing the information. Could be basically, are you a direct communicator, a good communicator? Do you withhold stuff and are scared to share stuff? For instance, sometimes we might get to the end of it and we might not feel comfortable asking, is there anything besides price or payment and keeping us moving forward today? Because we might feel like we're not in the situation. There's other aspects that roll into it. So I looked at it, and I looked at it more of like self-actualization today, more than just transparent. I think that most everybody in this call would agree, if I've got something to say, I'm pretty much going to say it. If you feel any different, I'd love to hear that, but I pretty much let the truth always be told as much as I can. Obviously, there's certain things I don't want you guys to hear between your ears, because that's my position, to funnel out the stuff to keep your head focused on what it needs to be focused on. But that's in any job. So how I look at it is, if you today on this call real quick before we get started, kind of think about a box, right? And if you set yourself inside of that box, and right now you look at everything that's being attracted or brought towards you, right now, do you deserve it? Is it deserving the situation that comes into it? Are you the victim, right? So how I look at it is from a couple different avenues, right? What I always say is to make sure we're doing the things that we need to be doing. We need to step outside of our own box sometimes and realize, am I causing some of the headaches that are being created? And I'm expecting people to adapt to my box because it's how I'm seeing the world, right? It's kind of like I was having a talk with my wife, and I want to buy new golf clubs, and she wants to go on a little mini vacay. Well, her spending money on that mini vacay, I don't want her to spend it on, because I think it's a waste of time and a waste of money. And just like the same thing is, she thinks my golf clubs are a waste of time and a waste of money, because we're looking at things through two different sets of perceptions, right? Her perception is she cares less about golf, so she doesn't understand why I'd want to spend that much money on golf clubs. And I don't understand, because I don't care that much about traveling, why she would want to go and spend money on hotels and traveling and all that other fun stuff, which to me, I feel like we live in the best place in the United States. I'm like, why would you want to leave here? So, there's different perceptions on how you see things. So same thing as that, right? It's like Scott's job, even in the back, is to protect the business, right? He's the last funnel to protect, to make sure we're profitable or not profitable, which keeps our advertising dollars and all that stuff running in, right? So sometimes we might hate that he might interfere with our fee for service or other things that come into there. But what we got to ask ourselves is, a couple things, right? If we look outside of our perspective, how well did I really set the job up, right? How well did I make sure that I'm maintaining and doing my part on it to run a clean business from the very beginning of the business, right? Am I setting my stickers out? Am I basically labeling my windows correctly? Am I giving detailed notes at the end of the project? Am I pricing and costing everything out appropriately? Or am I basically communicating if I did something a different way, or am I expecting things to just happen on their own, right? And naturally just let it work itself out. I know in our industry, as far as reps go, we are basically all about the instant gratification. And instant gratification is what we do because, whatever profession can you walk into where you go in and meet somebody and, basically in between 2 to 4 hours later, you're walking out knowing you just made basically $2 to $4 grand, if not more. So when you look at that, our gratification is pretty huge. And that's what we strive for as individuals. The way that we're wired is we like that instant gratification. Follow up and having to do the unnecessary is a pain in the butt, right? Think about it. To go back and protect your own money, which is a change order or something like, a note or customer communication, seems like sometimes it's pulling teeth because we feel like we've checked that box, already earned the business. It's like, why in the hell do I got to go back and get this done? This seems tedious, right? Because we're seeing it from our perspective that I'd rather be out selling something, bringing the company more money, not chasing down basically that piece of paper. And again, what caused that piece of paper to be needed? Is it because we forgot something on basically the time that we sold the job in the first place? Is it because, we forgot to cost something out appropriately? We didn't do a proper outside inspection where we missed stuff on through there. We didn't label our windows. We didn't sticker our windows. So again, sometimes that's one part of it. Second part of it could be inside of the house, right? We start thinking that we did a better job than what we did. So we get down to the end of it, once we get that no, or I want to think about it, or, I never make snap decisions, whatever that aspect might be. Sometimes we look at it and think that we might have done everything that we could possibly do. And the systems failed me, or basically the customer just wasn't going to buy from anybody. This is a big fat waste of time. Sometimes those are words that come out, and I could tell you when I was in the field, same thing happened. So what I always think about, and every time I get into a message like this, it starts reminding me of reverse engineering, right? Because anything we do in a presentation, we get down to the very end, there's something that caused the effect for them to want to think about it. There's something that caused the effect of them to not want to make a snap decision. Something caused the effect to make them feel like now's not a good time for them to afford it, right? So that you got to think about when I get those objections at the end, where in my process was the breakdown that caused the objection or didn't remove the objection? Okay. Might not be that it caused it. It might not have removed it. So that's why, if you think about how easy our business is, it's not that hard. Sometimes we make it way harder than it has to be. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to not miss a commitment, so much pressure on ourselves to price impressions, so much pressure on ourselves to basically make sure we're getting our pre-closes, so much pressure on ourselves to make sure that we're giving that masterful presentation every time, that sometimes it just doesn't come natural. A couple of things happen there. Number one, we didn't practice our craft to the point where we know it without thinking. And that's part of making the amount of money and having a, $7,000, $8,000 RPL is making sure that this year where you don't even have to think about it anymore. This just comes so natural that every time we talk, it's just a reminder, right? And that's pretty much where some of you that have been with me a year and a half, I beat the basics into this thing so much. And I talk about it so often that it becomes the basics. And I hate to tell you, but all the basics, that is basically setting the stage for mediocrity in our office, right? And if you're mediocre in our office, that's probably a 32% close. That's mediocrity, right? That's just if you follow the process to do nothing more. Realize you are the actor. It's like a script. I can have the best script written for the best movie that ever been produced, but if the actor sucks, so does the whole movie, right? Even though the script might have been perfect, if the actor sucks, so does the whole movie. You got to realize when you're putting yourself in that situation, how good are you doing with the script? How good are you doing executing How good are you doing executing what basically the script is putting inside your hands? How much inflection, how much enthusiasm, how much involvement are you putting into it, right? Are you playing off when they share information with you? Because again, if we structure our presentation at the very beginning, which is why we call it fill up before we pour out, if we're filling up before we pour out, they're telling us the whole reason. If you just stop and make this so simple, right? What do they currently have now, right? So you letting them tell you what's going on with the windows, what's, living a day in the life of them, right? In order to sell John Brown what John Brown buys, I must first see John Brown through John Brown's eyes. If I'm trying to fill up and truly find the one or two main reasons why they feel they called me out, what things they take ownership for, why they picked up the phone to call you today or a day ago or a week ago, what's the straw that broke the camel's back? Because remember, we talk about all the time in training, people don't just pick up the phone and let you come out to look at their windows for no reason. There's 0 times that's going to happen. How many of you guys thought about today to call and get a basically estimate on a hot water heater if you're not having basically problems with your hot water heater? Not a damn person on this call is thinking about a hot water heater until it does something to affect your life, right? So windows are the same exact way. Even if you got somebody that door knocks, I know some of you under your breath are saying, yeah, but what if they door knocked or they caught them at an event, right? It's a whole different situation. No, really, it's not. Because there's some need. Maybe they're thinking they're a year or 2 out, or they don't realize it's as severe as what it's going to be. Because basically, they might not have the money budgeted, right? It's why, like, if you think about roofing, for instance, most people that sell roofing for a living, they basically are dependent upon insurance companies because they don't have that money setting aside for it. So they're depending on the insurance company to help them basically put the roof down because they didn't save the money for the roof. Roofs are something that's an uh-oh. But unfortunately, 5% of the 5% of the entire market is in the market for a roof at any time, right? Same thing as bathrooms. A lot of people they want to remodel their bathroom because they're sick of doing it, but until some problem happens that's causing them to look deeper into it, they're not basically looking at it, which is causing you to listen to that reaction. Same thing as windows. If you're looking at your windows and nothing's wrong with the operation, nothing's wrong when you look through them, there's nothing that's causing you pain, you're not going to call to have your windows replaced. You're not going to let somebody inside your house if they knock on your door, because if you don't feel like it's a need, then there's nothing to be satisfied, right? Remember, a need met never satisfies. So you have to have in your mind that you're out there for a reason. And sometimes, like if you were a counselor and somebody to come in to see you, they're not going to release their problems until they feel comfortable with you to release their problems, right? So they're not going to really sit there and just open up. That's why a therapist's job, or basically a psychologist's job, is to ask you questions to get you comfortable. And the more you talk, the more comfortable you feel, right? And people that are good listeners are the easiest people to talk to, right? If you're too busy trying to tell them what their problems are out to start and they haven't taken ownership for it, that's it. That's why, again, fill up. Figure out what it is. You can't pour out a glass that's empty. You got to have some fluid in there first, right? So again, we got to make sure we're understanding why we're there, right? And sometimes they're not going to give that to you right off the start. Sometimes you got to take them to the first window, inside, outside inspection, so then you let them share with you what they're seeing and why that's important. And if they don't know, then ask permission to inspect. But you got to make sure when you're inspecting that it makes sense to them. If it doesn't make sense to them on why it is, and you're not asking them, does that make sense? Do you understand why I'm sharing this with you? Do you know what could be happening if we don't get this taken care of? If you don't get them involved in that standpoint, you're just setting yourself for failure. Because I hate to tell you, but the inspection and then basically the pre-inspection is setting the tone for the entire presentation. You're getting ahead of your objections, right? You want to talk about reverse engineering an objection? If you know what the objection is before you even get into the company story, which you should know what the objection is before you even get into the company story, because you've gone through your inspection, you've gone through your measure, you've gotten your fill-up questions, they've told you why they're out there. So if you don't have it figured out and basically laying the map or blueprint for your presentation before you get to the company presentation, then you're failing, right? So it all starts when you walk up to the house. You need to, again, make them feel so special. Like you haven't seen your best friend for 2 years and they showed up at your doorstep. How excited would you be to see your best friend, right? So again, make sure you treat them that way when you walk up and meet them, because you need to make them feel like the most important person you've ever met, even if they have a bad attitude, because this is going to help make them look at you like a real person. Now, don't be over exaggerant or over expression, but again, make them feel like you're excited to meet them. Because remember, energy creates energy. So once we lay our blueprint down, right, and we figure out what the reason they're calling us for, maybe they're nervous because you found the inspection that they had a horror story with a past remodeling project. So that lets you know you need to spend a lot more time in your company presentation, right? Maybe it's they've put this off for basically years longer than they need to, and they've got several broken sills in the house. So again, that gives you a chance to structure your presentation around why the windows have broken seals. Is it because the windows are racked? Is it because the seals fell? Is it because basically it's old technology? Did you read in between the glass on the spacer system and see what year the windows were actually put inside the house? Especially if it's a new home construction on aluminum windows. A lot of times, remember, that's printed right inside the window. And when you share stuff with them that nobody else does, you're putting yourself in a new level of expertise to where they're looking at you as a trusted advisor, right? People call designers out. Put this, people call designers out all day long that don't sling product. They don't even manufacture a product. They don't even sell a product. They're selling their service and design ideas. And sometimes they're getting basically $50,000 to $100,000 when they walk in the house just for the design ideas. And when you walk in there at the price tag you're giving, you're not only designing a solution, you're giving them what they want and need. You're doing a full inspection, and you're giving them the entire package with the manufactured product, with the installed product, with the measured product, with the insurances, with all the basically things that we offer them, services, project managers, the whole 9 yards. We're able to package this to them and give them something that has substance, not just designs, ideas, and opinions. So think about that. All this stuff has to be executed in the very beginning of it, because that inspection is what lights your world on fire. If you suck at the inspection, the rest of your presentation is irrelevant. If you don't find need and urgency, the rest of what you're doing is irrelevant, because you're presenting to basically guesses. You can't guess during a presentation. You have to have an angle to take it. Just like we tried to figure out in the very beginning, am I going to sell Duracast? Am I going to sell polymer? Am I going to sell basically EnduraGuard? Am I going to sell basically EnduraClad? Am I going to put the coatings on there? Am I going to go with what door am I going to go? 350 series, basically impervious series. What am I doing? If I don't pick one path and stick to it, then I'm guessing what the best thing for them is. And at the end of it, when I'm guessing, that creates indecision, because now you're giving them analysis by paralysis. There's too much information. So after we get our reasons why they're buying, if it's stucco cracks, if it's basically, the heat coming in through the window, the UV rays fading, basically the carpet, the floors, all the different protective things. Maybe it's because they're so uncomfortable in some of their rooms, even if they have solar, that they can't keep an even room temperature in there. Maybe it's because basically the windows are just shot, they're no longer operating, and one of their windows are acting like guillotines, and they're scared to death that if somebody gets too close, they're going to sever a finger. Maybe it's they're scared if there's a fire, basically something's going to happen. Maybe it's they're going to sell their house or continue to think they're selling their house, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with the windows. Maybe they're going to buy a house, or they're buying the house currently inside of there, or maybe they have an investment property where they know the windows are shot and they need to replace the windows. So if you don't find the why before you get started on why they need to use you, and you're not setting up the solution, the pain points, the problems, the areas of concern, why their problems are unique, and you're not setting that up in the very beginning, then when you get to the end, you're irrelevant. That makes you basically swim in a sea of sameness. Let me ask you, you can never give a good enough company presentation. You can never get a good enough, resolution to the product with the solution. You can never basically pre-close. You never close hard enough to make up for a shitty inspection, a shitty fill-up. Because all you've done in the very beginning, you've lost your momentum, right? Objects at rest stay at rest. Objects in motion stay in motion. So if you're not starting the yes train from the very beginning, and you're not getting them to say yes several times throughout the process, you don't make them love you and basically feel like you're their trusted advisor, then again, everything at the end is irrelevant. So now let's fast forward saying we do that very good. We did a good job putting our inspection in place. We did a good job basically setting up our boundaries of why the company is relevant to their condition, right? So why basically having the right insurances, W-2 employees, all that stuff are good. Why basically the product tied back to the pain points or basically designing capabilities or operational liabilities are such a big deal. Then we get down to the close, making sure we're not beating ourselves, right? Let me repeat this because I've read some of the notes lately and it drives me insane. There is no be-back bus. Let me repeat that. There is no be-back bus. Once in a great while, you run into a condition where you're going to be back, right? Maybe it's a one party and you can't get them over the hump and ask them what their neighbor or what they feel like their significant other or the other decision maker would say if they were in the same position. If that doesn't work and you got to set it up for a secondary visit, cool. That would be the only time really that, or if they're refinancing their house, that you should go back for a second visit. Other than that, you got one shot. Eminem said it perfect, right? You got one shot, one opportunity. If you think you're going to roll through it, good luck. If you know there's a condition why you're not going to get a decision, then you need to take that thing as far as you can and then set a secondary visit up. So let's talk about the 60%. Remember, because there's 10 basically appointments that you're going to run and 6 have all homeowners there and literally you're able to give a presentation. We need to go minimum 1 for 2. That's 30% close. That's how we get 30%. So when we get that and we romance our project, get them so excited, remind them of what the investment's going to be, and we roll down at the end of it our commitment to value. John and Mary, hey, can you see with everything that we've accomplished, everything we put together here today, not to mention the reason you called me out, which was XYZ, XYZ, not to mention we found on the inspection, which was, the cracks in the stucco, basically the seal failure, the basically seals sticking out past the frame. So you know that several of them, even though they're not there yet, are soon to be there. Why there's challenge or problem, man. Maybe it's the heat coming through the window. Whatever it is that you built up on that inspections where you need to relive that right before you drop that investment, right? So hopefully we said the magic words. If I rewind that before I go into my value statement. So obviously, guys, and make it sound obvious. Don't stop and pause and ask a question. Getting commitments isn't sounding like a cornball or a salesperson. It needs to sound like a natural conclusion, right? Like fast forward or like rewind back in the middle of it, guys. So it sounds like to me, guys, looking at the condition here, I bet you that, we'd agree these windows are not really repairable. They probably need to be replaced. Would you agree with that? Yeah, I would agree with it. So we both agree they definitely need to be replaced when it comes time, right? Yes. That's kind of how you get a commitment. You don't say, oh, John and Mary, would you agree these windows definitely need to be replaced? You need to say it in a content, you get them to answer it, but it sounds like you're just talking. Same thing as your company commitment, right? You get down to the end of it, would you feel 100% confident, trusting Dreamstar and modeling? It's not a stop and stop or start and stop. It's a, hey, let me ask you guys, with everything we shared about, is there any questions you have about what we shared? No. Is there anything else you'd be looking for in the company that we didn't share with that's important? No. So it sounds like to me, really, with everything we shared, you and your family feel 100% confident, trusting Dreamstar Modeling to take care of this project for you. Is there any doubt that we would do a good job for you? No. Cool. Thank you. That's how you package that stuff. You don't stop and just say it. John and Mary, would you feel 100% confident, trusting Dreamstar Modeling to do the project for you? Yes, you want to use those words, but you got to put it in you, right? It's part of the actor. It's not the song, it's the singer, right? So be the good singer that's progressing these things out, just like the product. Guys, we've taken care of all the things that we looked at to call out for, which was basically the air infiltration. You see how we took care of that with the weather stripping process, the frames, how they don't expand and contract. The glass package, as we showed you the glass pack and what that's going to do for you, not to mention the installation method. We talked about we didn't want to do a retrofit and your house was past the position where you could even get away with doing that anyways. Is there anything else you're looking for the product take care of we didn't share with you today? No. So as far as designs, other option, if we got all that stuff buckled down perfect for you. So when it comes time, is there anything else you're looking for in a product? And it sounds like that's what you want. Is that correct? So when it comes time, this is the window system that we designed. I'm getting ready to price out. They only need but want to take care of the problems on the house. Is that correct? Yes. Boom. That's a commitment. But it sounds like I'm talking, not like I'm stopping and saying it. So again, there's a difference between stopping and saying it and then having a natural conclusion. Part of the mastery of this whole business where you get to unconscious competence is being able to say those words and it doesn't sound like you're even saying it. It doesn't feel like you're really getting commitments. You don't feel like a salesperson. You feel like a consultant. So when I get down to the end of it and I get to the pricing standpoint, I say, okay, guys, you know what? We'll put together a package. I think you're going to love it. Maybe not love it. Maybe like it. But at the purpose is we're going to explain to you why it is what it is, right? And then we rebuild the project. As we rebuild the project, so it sounds like to me logically there's nothing besides price or payment that's going to keep you from moving forward today. Is that correct? Great. That might be a more pointed question. Okay, so guys, remember to take care of all the problems you called me out today for, which was blank, 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 and all the problems we found in the inspection, which was blank, blank, blank. Can you see how we hold the value of, 34,376 is a good value to take care of the entire project on your own? Yes, no, maybe, indifferent. Squeal, squeal, squeal. Then we need to justify and fight there, remember, because we have to get them to commit that is a fair value for the project on their house. Maybe not a good value, maybe not a great value, but a fair value to take care of everything that we have to call back on in there. If they tell you, well, that's more money than we were expecting to spend today, almost double it. Well, of course, but remember, you called me out for this and this, and we told you what we had to do to fix it, which was greater scope of work than you thought. It is a more unique situation. Not to mention, we found this, this, and this on the inspection that needed to be addressed too. And you said there was nothing else as far as design capabilities, things like that you'd be willing to give up, and it was what you wanted when it did come time, correct? Great. So even though it's more money you want to spend, can you see how we hold that as a value to take care of the project on your own? Yes. You got to get that. If you don't, then the next price becomes your first real price, right? And some of you don't have a problem with it. Some of us still give the ball away and we're going right to green line. I can't understand for the life of me why you'd put you or your family in that position. Don't do it, because mistakes do happen. We're in construction. So mistakes do happen. We're in construction. Things happen. Okay. Protect yourself. That's why that value commitment is so important. Okay. There might be some times where you look at it and the project might be crazy. For instance, if there's ILTs, which is like full divided lights with the inside outside grill. Sometimes that might run a position. It might make you squeal a little bit. You let them know it's the design you chose, not what I know what we did. There's ways we can peel it back to do different things with the grills to maybe make that happen. And I do have an email in, by the way, to address that to see if there's any way we can bring that down. But at the end of the day, we can only control what we control. Price has to be irrelevant, right? When we sold before, prices are extravagant. It's basically always going to be extravagant because we're not a lowball cheap company. If we were, we wouldn't need the quality of salespeople that we have. We could have order takers. So again, we look at it. We got to make sure, again, we get that value commitment. If you get that commitment to value, it's good. Okay. We're not asking them to pay that. Again, remember, we're just asking them to validate that that's a good investment for the project. Now, they did call us off the promotional discount. Remember, this is when you need to pull back out their promotional discounts or pull yours out of your bag and talk about what a great deal it is, right? Because truly it is. Right now, given buy one, get one 40% off, or basically buy one, get one 25% off, which is basically, or 50% off, which is either 20 or 25% off, depending if they're going to use the 36 months no interest. Then we do the buy one, get one 40, or then basically the other one that basically gives them 25% right off the bat, right? Those are some pretty awesome promotions. Not to mention with 36 months, no interest, no payments, you're not finding a better time ever for them to say yes. And it could be any day they take that program away from us, especially if we're not closing the deals we need to. So you need to have that urgency on why, in your conviction, at this point, we need to know we're digging in and fighting. There is no maybe here. It is yes or no. After they committed nothing besides price or payment, if you're walking out of that thing with anything yet than a yes or no, they're lying to you and you're buying the lie. There's a sell made at every project. They're either selling you on the reasons why they're not doing it, you haven't sold them yet, or basically you're walking out of that thing with the money you deserve because you just gave a massive presentation. There's no middle in between. Sorry, but buyers have not changed over the last 30 years. And I'd rather say that you're just not saying that in a nice way just to get rid of me, right? So again, at this point, we need to justify that discount and explain why it's so great. If you're not selling the promotion and the discount in there, talking about what a great discount it is, well, it's probably this is the best I've ever seen. And right now it truly is the best that I've ever seen. Guys, you ought to be glad you fell into this. I'm going to explain to you how this is going to be a benefit for you later too. That's going to save you a total of $8,436 out the project. Again, $8,436 out the project. I've never seen that before. That's taking the whole project down to only, $29,746. Or what some of our savvy customers do, they take advantage of basically 12 months, no interest, no payment program, or they open an account at 60 months at basically, $473 a month. Let me ask you, how does $473 a month fit in the budget? You want to get them yes or no? And then remember, you can dangle that 36 months no interest out there if you want to, but we've got to make sure, again, we're putting ourselves in a position to succeed, not to fail. So we've got to make sure we're getting them locked into that payment. If you're still selling the damn price, you are failing more than you're succeeding. The price is irrelevant. The payment is where we go. Because everyone's paying cash until we get to this point. Remember that. Everyone's paying cash to get to this point. They could have thought 20 windows cost $5,000 because they're looking at it like commodity, right? So if they save $5,000 up and you're at 30, well, of course they're going to tell you they need to think about it because they just got shocked. Even if you were price impressioning into it, still they're shocked. So how long did it take them to save up that $5,000, right? Do they want to use all of that for a deposit, or do they want to take a section of it? Your job as a consultant in this close is to find out and be their financial advisor here at the end. Rationalize with them that stalling or not doing anything at all is just going to cost them more money down the road because they just committed. They found the right company to fix their problems and solutions. They found the right product, design, and colors that's installed by the right company with the right installation method, with the right insurances that's going to take care of those problem solutions. There's no backing out. It's literally yes or no. So we have to make sure, again, we are holding them accountable at that coupon price. And this is where we sell. If you're given the initial visit discount here and I rode with you, I would kick you in the back of the shin as hard as I could. That'd be your calf. Because again, you are failing yourself. You are giving your money away and you're not getting all objections out at the coupon. You have to get all your objections out at the coupon price. If you don't, again, you're going to give that today discount and you've got nowhere to go. Then they're going to end up squeezing you for the 36 months no interest and the 35% off, which means you're giving your fee for service away or part of it. You can't do that. You have to stay strong in your resolve on here and realize give to get means you've isolated the objection all the way down to the price or payment they're willing to pay or the dollar figure they're willing to come off of. And if you know you're batting, if you know you're playing outside of your realm and you're at 29 grand and they had $5,000 saved up, you're probably setting yourself up for a cancel. Remember to have that starter package ready so you can take them back down to that starter package. So you're putting them in a position where they can say yes, at least on part of it. Because remember, our average customer comes back to us 2 to 3 times, right? Because number one, not everybody can afford to do everything at once. And then number two, maybe they want to try us out to make sure we're the right company and everything we said's true so they can come back to us again when things are more affordable or after they've tested us out. Because John and Mary, I too would be in a position where I wouldn't be able to tackle that whole amount off the start. I'd have to start and do it in phases. And you seem like that person, if you start something, you're definitely going to finish it, right? Praise them on being able to take a starter package. Make it normal. Don't make it like they're cheaping. Don't call it a partial. If you call it a partial, that sounds like they're cheapening out. Nobody wants to feel like they're cheapening out. They want to feel like, congratulations, you're taking a step in the right direction of helping fix your house. Remember, because that isolation part, here, if you don't rationalize and you don't get all their objections out and you take it down to that today price and you're still fighting, you're not going to win. You're going to lose. But in decision, think about this, right? If they were to put this off another 5 years, and let's say they got 20 windows in their house, another 5 years. If they were just to do 2 windows a year for the next 5 years, they would already have 10 windows of their 20 done. Rather than waiting 5 years, now with price increases, installation costs, they're not building new properties here in San Diego. All they're building is basically townhomes and basically investment community, or basically, condo communities. They're not building new homes. All the prime real estate here is already built. So unless they're going to bulldoze something down and rebuild it, the construction costs are going to continue to keep rising here in San Diego, more in Southern California, more than they are anywhere in the country. Because guess what? People know they can get it because supply and demand. There are more bad contractors out there installing jobs that don't have the capability or credentials to do it than there are available good people that actually know how to do the work. So again, we don't want to apologize for price at all. We want to apologize for our industry being so crooked, so deceptive, and taking advantage of so many people that the number one complaint from the Better Business Bureau is lack of meeting customers' expectations. And unfortunately, if you go at a cheaper price tag, what do you think you're setting yourself up for? To be part of that 96% of people that fail in 5 years or 2 years? To put yourself in a position where 80% of people take the cheapest bid, had big problems getting the job completed? So think about that. You're fighting to help save them at this point. So again, we have to do our point at isolating it, because they already told you, get all the other bull crap out of the head, because they're going to start throwing everything but the kitchen sink at you at this point. So we have to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position to succeed. So isolate them. Remember, pause 4 seconds. Thanks for sharing that, guys. It sounds like to me, the only reason we're not moving forward is the reason you just stated. Is that it? Nothing else. Even if it's bull crap, we still need to repeat it back to them so they can hear they're saying bull crap. So it sounds like to me, the only reason we're not moving forward is the fact that you need a couple of days to think about it. Is that it? Nothing else. Yeah, that's it, Dustin. We just need a couple of days to think about it. Okay. Well, when nice people like yourself tell them to think about it, it just means they're not comfortable yet, right? I assume you're just not comfortable at this standpoint. Can I ask you, is it basically anything to do with the company? You did share with me you're 100% confident. You loved everything that we put together, the installation method, W-2 employees. Is there anything about that you're not comfortable with? No, we're comfortable with that 100%. Okay. What about the product designs and colors? No, we love that. So that's not it either, right? So what about the warranty? What about the warranty and service aspect of it? No, we love that too. So it sounds like to me, it's nothing to do with the company. It's just the investment, right? So let me ask you, how much too much is the $373 a month or $444 a month, whatever it might be, and then get it back down to the money. That's really the reason why you need to think about it, right? Because you're going to wake up 2-3 days from now. You're not going to remember anything I said anyways, because you weren't taking notes, no offense. It took me years to package this much information in my head to be able to share with you. So the fact that I'd expect you to learn it in basically an hour and a half to 2 hours isn't fair to you. So to make sure it's fair to you, what is it that might be affordable for you? Is it more like, $325, $275 a month? What were you thinking might be more affordable? And remember, we need to lead them down that direction. Because if you're just saying, well, what price would be affordable? More, would it be more like 25, 23? Oh, remember, you got to change that denominator. If you can't change that denominator from a 2 to a 1, and you can't get in that range, you don't need to be talking about that. You need to be basically hitting on the payment. Because if you're at, let's say if you're at 31,273 and you can get down to 29 and some change, well, that change from a 3 to a 2 is a big psychological mess in their head, right? For me to take it from 31 to 29, if they're cash buyers and truly cash buyers, that clicks something psychological. Even though it's only $2,000, it feels like eons difference because you change the main denominator from a 3 to a 2. So you got to think about that. Same thing happens with a payment. If I'm going down on a payment and my payment's at 375, so what do you think, at 325, 350? You're not enticing them, you're insulting them. How do I get down to 275 to 300? So how much money did you set aside for the project? How much money were you comfortable putting down? If you said 5,000, were you comfortable putting 3 down, 2,500? What were you thinking? Even though, yes, you can only take $1,000 deposit, you can set yourself up for measure payment. So stop talking about the things you can't control. Start talking about the things you can, right? Then we put their deposit inside of there, show them what that happened to the payment, reach out and say, well, now if we can get you down to 275, not to mention, we did talk about if we could do that, that would be it and nothing else. Is that correct? We could have go ahead and earn your business if we could get down into that range. Is that something like that's what it would take for us to help you out today? Is that it? Nothing else? Good. Then package the deposit inside there. Explain to them that initial investment so you don't have to take it and give it back again. And then turn it around and reach your hand out and say, congratulations, welcome to Dreamstar Remodeling. That same little stance I did works with, I want to think about it, right? I want to get other estimates. That's a bullshit way to say they're looking for the same thing you carry at a cheaper price. Right? The same thing you carry at a cheaper price tag. If you can't sniff that out and and you're buying the lie that they really are the type of people that always get 3 estimates, that's bullshit. Where did they learn that from? And ask them, where did you guys learn that from? That's interesting. Maybe I'll learn something today. Oh, it's just what we've always done. Well, where did you learn it? Well, my dad did it. Okay. So give me an example of something you've got 3 estimates on and how that worked out for you. You know, the internet companies today, that's what they want. They want to sell the same lead 4 or 5 times because they're making the money. So think about that. Somebody is selling them on something. The basically lead companies that sell leads off, like lead aggregators, is trying to sell that lead 3 or 4 times, that same name 3 or 4 times to get that money 3 or 4 times for that same lead. So if I could talk a customer into going and getting 3 or 4 estimates or 5 estimates, then I've made my money on the marketing side of it. And I've made everyone else's job difficult, but I did my job, right? Don't you think that's where that came from? It didn't suddenly some people woke up and said, I always want to get 3 estimates. No, it's because marketing conditioned them to do that. It's like while you watch basically a steak commercial, and you see a steak, if you're into steak or whatever type of food you like, you see that food commercial, then suddenly you want to eat that food that looks really good, right? Or like the Pepsi where you hear the twist and you hear that fizz coming out of it, it draws you in. Marketers and advertisers know what they're doing. So in there, you have to fight the reason on why they're being sold a different direction. Because if they found their car keys, why are they looking? Why would they continue to keep looking if everything's a fit? So again, we need to make sure we're putting ourselves in a position to where we don't have to make that fight. Remember, if I reverse engineer that, and they told me in the beginning they're getting 3 different estimates, I can add that little adage somewhere in my company presentation talking about why people make big mistakes when they buy business that way, why they do things this way, and here's what we found. And I can spend more time talking about the Better Business Bureau, Small Business Administration, talk about why the very thing they shared to me they're going to do is a horrible idea. And I can remove that objection in my presentation without having to fight like a dog at the end of it. So remember, take that objection, put it in the company presentation, figure out where you can remove that and ask them if that makes sense. Can you see why people made mistakes like that? You understand how that can be convoluted and confusing. And you're almost doing your close that you would do 45 minutes later or an hour later. You're almost doing that during your company presentation because you're removing the objection. So at the end of it, all it is a logical yes. Same thing as I never make snap decisions. You know, we're not going to make a decision today. We never do that. Well, if I'm not finding out the reasons why, that they made a bad decision or had a problem, then again, I could basically be putting myself in a position where I have to fight like a dog at the end of it. So in closing and wrapping up, when we look at basically those objections, are we looking at where we're getting them from our box and think they're unattainable? Or if we step outside of our box and we're looking at how basically we might be affecting or buying into those things, is it because we're not finding it out early and removing it during the presentation? So we're letting it eat us up when we get to the end of it. We're buying lies, buying indecision. Because we're sitting inside of our box and looking how all that stuff's affecting us. Or are we stepping outside of our box and realizing where we can reverse engineer this and get ahead of the objection so it doesn't become relevant at the end? That's what I got for you today, guys. If you got questions, let me know. Other than that, we'll go ahead and wrap up and then so you guys can get to your appointments. Anybody?
How did you get to be such a good sales guy?
Lots of dumb tacks. Lots of learning to buy lies and then getting sick and tired of buying them. So many years.
Dustin, can I bring you with me on all my sales calls? Like just put you in my pocket?
Probably. We can try that. All right. Did that make sense today, though?
Yep.
Good stuff.
All right, sweet. Well, with that said, guys, Who Day. We got about a week left of basically solid selling stuff. And we need to get out there and improve why Southern California, no one's going to beat us, right? We want to
Nobody.
Yeah, we want to slaughter the rest of the competition out through here. We want to make basically, New Mexico realize that they can't play in our ball field So we're sitting at about 980,000 right now with after losses. So we need to get up to about that 1.5 million. So 1.5 million should be our goal. And to get there, we all have to be hitting. We can't be forgetting things. We've got to be so solid, so comfortable, and making that customer love us that entire presentation. And remember, if you hear them saying things that you know are going to create an objection in the beginning, identify that early, and then figure out in your presentation where you can remove that till we get down to the end. With that said, guys, have an awesome day. Love you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you.